Taking home a new baby is one of the happiest times in a woman's life, but it also comes with both physical and emotional challenges. From emotional roller coaster of adjusting to their new role to coping with sleep deprivation and exhaustion, there are numerous hurdles new mothers must navigate. That can leave them feeling overwhelmed and uncertain. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Siman Shekoye and I'm joined by my co-hosts Oriane Itangishaka and Ginny Niwa. Today we will discuss about the different body changes after birth and why it's important for mothers to have postpartum care. So there are, week by week information out there about pregnancy, the journey to pregnancy, but I feel like what happens after delivery is often overlooked. For example, in my case, I thought, breastfeeding is something natural. You have a baby and then you breastfeed. Mm-hmm. I didn't know having a baby latch can be such a difficult job. Or, we hear about no sleep, but I didn't know how bad that can be. Mm-hmm. But for me, I think constantly crying about, that beautiful thing of having a baby can be something I will experience until I went through it. About the mood swings, and then I hear about baby blues. So as mothers, what is that one thing you wish you knew before you had a baby that you struggled with?
I think people minimize some things in life that women go through. We take it so lightly, and maybe sometimes we say, oh, you're whining. Oh, these are very serious situations. I mean, I remember thinking that, oh, postpartum depression was, for just some people, I'm not going to go through that. I have self-esteem and all of that. No, these are psychological, emotional things that happen without you even being aware. So postpartum depression was something that I took lightly when it happened to me, when I was actually sad and I wouldn't say depression, but I was sad and I was not happy, and I'm breastfeeding my child. I just had a baby, but I think it was my second or third child.
You had that mood swing.
I had those mood swings, and then I was like, oh my God, this actually happened to me. So a lot of women really need to realize that it's actually can be happening to you if you just had a baby. So don't take it lightly, just take it, one day at a time, and know that it's something called postpartum depression. And what's scary about it is that the severe part of it is what's called a postpartum psychosis. And I hope maybe we can touch on that, because when I was reading more about it, the postpartum psychosis comes to different levels: hallucination, delusion, paranoia, behavior changes to a point where you can actually harm your child. And I think you have a testimony about that, where you can actually really do something that you don't mean to do because of that state of mind.
Yeah, I know a woman who hit her baby, 6-month-old baby, because she was frustrated. At that moment, she was shocked. After hitting the baby, she was so shocked that she had to call someone and ask, please take this baby. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And she was able to get help after. And now she's a good mother. And,
wow.
But it happens to a lot of mothers and without us realizing it.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience?
As far as my mood, I feel like my mood was fine, but it's the taking care of yourself and even things that I wasn't aware.
You forgot about yourself.
Yes, it's like your out-of-body experience, like you just on automatic. You feed your baby, you wake up, you barely sleep. And shower, I did not know what it was.
There's no time for it.
There's no time for it.
Even the way we handle the baby, we do the house chores and we don't realize like our back is still, it needs time to heal. Yeah. There are so many changes in our body that needs time to heal.
So I can definitely see how it can lead to depression, because there's so much pressure. You have a partner, that partner have needs, but you're not
ready to fulfill
you
those
are so
needs.
Not ready to fulfill those needs, and you can feel the pressure. All your focus is on your baby. Your body is changing. It hurts. Breastfeeding hurts, something that I didn't know. Moving hurts, during those 6 to 8.
Especially if you go through C-section, it's also an additional pain.
Yes, going to the bathroom hurts. So you do not feel, you're not living your best life as far as, yourself. Yeah. So I can totally see how all of those, feelings can lead.
You're going through all of those feelings with pain in your body. I remember taking I forgot the name of the medication, but that medication, once it wears off after 4 hours, I was just in excruciating pain everywhere. And I was like, oh my God, give me them pills. And it's not good.
Well, we'll be discussing more about this Postpartum or postnatal refers to the period after birth and lasts 6 to 8 weeks or until the mother's body returns to its pre-pregnancy state. While this is a moment filled with sweet baby snuggles and heart-melting moments, it's also a period major body and life changes happen for new mothers. This includes breast engorgement, vaginal discharge, hemorrhoids, hair loss, or emotional change such as anxiety and depression. According to the World Health Organization, more than 3 in 10 women and babies worldwide do not receive postnatal care in their first days after birth, which affects health development of the baby as well as mother's overall mental and physical recovery. The National Institute of Health, for example, says 1 in 7 women experience postpartum depression after birth, and yet up to 50% of cases remain undiagnosed due to patients' reluctance to disclose symptoms in fear of stigma. On this week's edition of Our Voices, we will discuss significant changes in the postpartum period and why postpartum care is important for mothers. We will also have experts to discuss ways that help shape positive postnatal experience for women, babies, and families.
Postpartum depression, or PPD, is a moderate to severe form of depression that can affect women after childbirth, lasting anywhere from weeks to months. While this condition remains a significant mental health issue worldwide, data on PPD is sparse in Africa, and experts say it is rarely discussed and often misdiagnosed. VOA Sergio Nambi brings us a story from the Bernicia Banze, a 28-year-old mother in Mozambique whose postpartum depression was misinterpreted by some as spiritual manifestation. Let's take a look.
At first, it seemed like a simple case of depression, but it began to intensify. Her son's simple cry bothered her, and time seemed to be frozen. There were signs that this might be something else. The World Health Organization reports that about 1 in 5 women can develop postpartum depression. It is a psychological disorder that affects women during pregnancy or within a year of delivery.
Ficava desinteressada com o bebê, né?
I wasn't interested in the baby. I didn't care if he cried or not. I was tired all day. But I slept and still didn't feel rested. The baby cried so much, and it all made me feel overwhelmed and exhausted.
Her family sensed that something was wrong with her and that she needed help. However, they say they were divided on what exactly to do.
My mother took me to the doctor, but other people in my family said that I should go to healers, that kind of thing. My mother took me back to the hospital. That's where they noticed that I needed medical attention, and I started doing therapy there, and I got better.
While the direct cause of postpartum depression is unknown, some of the reported symptoms of this problem can be melancholy, deep anguish, and sadness. The expert adds that the history of depression in women and social pressure can also contribute to this problem.
E também a relação com parceiro.
Also, the partner relationship. Sometimes the partners have not been properly supportive during the gestation period. They do not accompany them to prenatal appointments, and sometimes there are dynamics that can happen in the relationship between the two. There can be latent conflicts that arise during this period, for example. These elements and the added stress could also contribute to an alternate mood.
And the problem compounded further when you add to this formula the deficient health system.
Geralmente, quando ela vai ao hospital,
Usually when she goes to the hospital for the child's weight, for the child's evaluation, the hospital does not always evaluate the feelings or the concerns of the mother. They just take care of the baby, and that's the end of it. Maternal and child health nurses, and also gynecologists or obstetricians, not all of them are sufficiently prepared to identify signs that the mother might be experiencing postpartum depression.
Dr. Hachimo says this problem can be treated using medication and psychotherapy, depending on each case. Support from the family, friends, and religion can also play a big role in improving a woman's psychological state. During the crisis, Benicia's son was also affected as she was unable to give him the attention he needed. She says she followed the medical recommendations to the letter and overcame this difficult phase of her life.
Well, postpartum care is important to promote women's physical healing, emotional well-being, and for a smooth transition to motherhood. This motivated our guest, Dr. Findile Erika Chowa, to write the book, What to Expect Next, a postpartum guide that assists a mother plan a healthy postpartum journey. As an emergency medicine physician who also runs her own medical practice, Dr. Chowa has seen firsthand the challenges moms face after arriving home. Now she's joining us via Zoom to explain why it's critical to take good care of mother's health right after birth. Dr. Chowa, it's really good to have you from Georgia. Welcome to Our Voices.
Thank you so much. Joining from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, definitely. So once a baby, arrives, mother and also all family members will be celebrating this new bundle of joy. But you say that it's critical to also take good care of the mother's health too. So let's first start talking about your personal experience. What was your struggle like after having your baby that you didn't know?
Wow. So, I felt very prepared for pregnancy. I felt very prepared for childbirth. But what happened after was pretty shocking, the lack of preparation for myself. And so when I had my child, she ended up in the intensive care unit. And as a result, my breast milk was delayed. And so I spent countless time pumping, trying to get my breast milk to come in. I was not sleeping. I was having a really difficult time coping with the challenges that happened after I gave birth to my child. And once I got home, I realized that I still wasn't able to produce milk. So I started getting really down about my inability to produce milk. It was directed really at myself, and it felt like a failure. I'd seen countless moms and relatives who were able to breastfeed their children naturally. And so for me, this was a really difficult part and really led to what I felt was
You saw it as a failure.
I saw it as a failure. It's supposed to be natural, I think someone said on the show, but I think for me as a physician, it felt like, what is going on with me, right? And so I did everything I could to try to get the milk going. I pumped day in and day out. I did not sleep. So there was a sleep deprivation. There was the guilt. I had family, my in-laws visiting with me, and they also didn't understand that not everybody can't breastfeed. And so there was a blame. And I don't think they meant it in a harmful way, but they were like, what is going on? What is wrong with your breast? You're not eating right. You're not sleeping. You're not doing the right things to produce breast milk. And so really that led to a lot of intense feelings, a lot of down feelings, anxiety. It got to such a place where I didn't know how to handle it or cope with everything else that was going on.
Right. And that also happens sometimes when you can produce milk, but not enough. Because I remember only doing it for 6 months, and I felt like, oh, I thought I was going to do it for at least a year. And so I think that, we have so many different experiences. But what do you think, or what do you advise for families to do in order to prepare an environment for mothers? Talk to the families, and what advice do you give them? Because I think, like you just spoke, the in-laws, the friend, everybody who comes around, what should they be aware of? What should they say, do, not do?
That's a great question, because I feel like before the baby comes, conversations need to happen, right? Conversations, who is going to be in the home? Who is going to be doing what in the home? Let's talk about the challenges that I could experience and what to look out for. So what to do if I'm unable to breastfeed, how to speak to me, what could be going on. So I think a lot of times there's an educational gap. A lot of people, family, community members don't understand the things and the changes that may happen to a woman postpartum. So I think key is educating the family, the community about things to look out for. What is normal vaginal bleeding? What to do if my mood is off, what to do if I'm sleeping excessively or I have abnormal behaviors, how to speak to me. And then, the partners really have to have a conversation, mom and dad, they need to have a conversation and say, who is going to be in our environment who is supportive, right? Because we all have that family member who may not be the supportive person when you're postpartum. So you want to have somebody who is compassionate, who is understanding, willing to learn and understand that there's sometimes things beyond a woman that happen with her body. There's hormonal things, there's physical changes, and they have to be careful not to put the blame on mom, because that can further worsen her mood, further worsen her depression, and can isolate her when problems arise.
Definitely.
So education really is key.
Dr. Choma,
Compassion.
these are definitely great points and great conversation to have, and we'll get back to that. It is now time for a quick break. Thank you so much. When we come back, we will continue to discuss why postpartum care matters for mothers and the essential needed for recovery. Before we go, we also would like you to share with us your personal journey as a new mother and why you think postpartum care matters. Share your thoughts on our social media platform. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and our handle is at VOA Africa. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganye. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You are with Our Voices and welcome back. Today we are discussing postpartum care and why it's important for the well-being of mother, their babies and the whole family. And with us is Dr. Choa. She published a book, What to Expect Next. This is a guide for mothers when they get home. And it commonly includes short-term mood swings, crying, difficulty sleeping, or anxiety. But some other mothers also experience a more severe form of depression, which may interfere with mother's ability to care for the baby or to handle other daily tasks. So let me come back to you, Dr. Choa. Can you tell us first the difference between severe postpartum depression and what we call baby blue? What are the symptoms and how do we identify those early signs?
Yeah, so the main difference really is the time frame. So baby blues happens very early, and it really happens because of the emotional changes that are happening with mom. So there's a little bit irritability, there's the feeling overwhelmed, the lack of sleep. But if the symptoms last for longer of time and are more severe, so excessive crying, not sleeping, sleeping too much, having thoughts about not wanting to be around anymore, having thoughts about hurting yourself, those can be more severe. And really, we really worry about a woman hurting herself or her child. And so postpartum depression can last up to a year after a woman gives birth.
And we also know that, the diaspora and the continent has, different contexts sometimes, and we're going to get to that. Now it's time for our Your Voice segment where we go to Kano, Nigeria, where we hear from Adama Yunusa, Fatima Musa Aliyu, Franzi Ahmad, and Mubarak Daha about how to support new mothers who are experiencing postpartum symptoms after giving birth. Let's take a look.
So when they are having this sadness, how the society and the family members can help? By bringing them, they can only help them by bringing them close to them, making them happy so that they will not be sad, bringing them, staying with them so that they will not be alone.
I remember after giving birth to her how I felt. I remember not wanting to have anything to do with her, and sometimes I just look at her and I start crying for no reason. So initially I thought it was nothing. I never thought there was a name to it, but after my research I got to find out that there's actually a name for it and that other people also go through the same.
I've seen people a lot who have experienced it. Personally, I usually cry a lot after I give birth, for no reason actually. And then I know the way the society and the family can support someone with postpartum is supporting them, helping them out with the child, and then generally making them happy.
They don't want to associate with the children or something, the child that you give birth to. And on my own view, the way the society could be able to support this woman is to create an inclusive space for them in which they will be able to support them, to show them this is a normal thing in which they are not alone.
So Dr. Choa, they mention a lot how many African countries loneliness isn't an issue for new mothers because, they have constant visitation and, help from friends, family. However, I remember when I had my baby, it was almost an annoyance to have people around because you want to attend and, in the diaspora, you don't have sisters or people living at your house. Is there a good way to visit people?
Yeah, I think moms need to plan ahead of time who can come in. And then if there are people or family members who want to go visit mom, they should really be thinking about what can I do to help this person. The reason a lot of times these individuals are an annoyance is because when they do come, they're coming, they want to hold baby, they're coming to meet baby, and then you're thinking about everything else that's going on in the house, the cleaning the house, the cooking the house. And so I think if people think, how can I help mom? How can I lessen the load on mom? Mom is going to be more able to create some mind space for those individuals. So when anyone is thinking, I want to go visit a friend or a family member, they should be thinking, how can I lessen her load? How can I help her? The attention should go to her, not to the baby, which is what happens now. Everybody wants to help the baby. They want to take the baby, feed the baby, but oftentimes that's not what mom needs.
Right, and I think as an African, you would understand that too much can be too much. Like, stop bringing a flood of people in my house. And I think mothers should get to a point where they say, I'm going to bed, okay? You guys can stay and hang out, but I'm going to bed. But I think culturally speaking, we feel like, we're letting people down. But I think mothers should really set boundaries, right? And say, you know what, I need to go sleep and not feel bad about it. But also another experience that I had was that people can come visit you, but they don't bring anything with them. Like, I remember getting upset about somebody, a whole flood of friends came to visit me, and I had to cook for them. I just had a baby 2 weeks ago, so set boundaries, I think, right?
Yeah. So, Dr. Choa, let me take you back to the postpartum depression we mentioned in the earlier. Sometimes women tend to ignore those signs and feelings, and they fear the stigma. They don't want to be. There is also a stigma of, saying it's a possession or a mental crisis. So, how, what kind of help can women get, and what happens if a woman does not get treated for this depression?
Yeah, this is a very important topic. You know, I remember telling my own mom that, Mom, I'm feeling depressed. And my mom is like, what is this? I've had a child as well, right? Like, I had to do it. We all did it. You're fine. You're not depressed. And I remember driving and thinking, you know, I want to drive off the road, and what would it be if I wasn't here, right? And so for me, I had to take that into my own hands and say, this is not normal. I need to get the help that I need, and I need to tell medical professionals. So sometimes, you know, when you're really scared, you're thinking about, you know, the stigma. What is my mom going to think? What is this person going to think? We really have to, as Africans, we need to overcome this, because it is detrimental. It can lead to suicide among mom. It could lead to mom hurting her child. Just now, the other day, someone in Niagara Falls jumped into the falls with her 8-month child. And people are thinking to themselves, yes, there's a story recently, and everyone is thinking, Mom, that's irresponsible of Mom. How could she do that? The first thing that came to my head was untreated postpartum depression. That child was 8 months old, right? But what led her to the point where she felt like she had nobody, no one to talk to? And so as moms, we have to have these conversations. And I always encourage young people, because I think our younger generation, they're more open to therapy, they're more open to conversation, support group, community, and addressing these issues. So as a community, we have to have these conversations with our religious leaders, our politicians. It's lovely we're having this conversation here, because we have to understand that it's not always spiritual, right? It's not always laziness or mom just not wanting to be responsible for a child. It's sometimes hormonal. And oftentimes, you know, love and care may not do it. Sometimes moms need medication. They need the help.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Choa, for sharing your personal as well as your professional experience. And it's really great having you on Our Voices.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this is where we end our show. Our special thanks goes to our guest, postpartum survivor and advocate, Dr. Pindile Erica Choa, a physician who authored What to Expect Next. It was a great pleasure having you on Our Voices. And be sure to watch Our Voices on the VOA website at voaafrica.com or on our YouTube channel, where you can catch up on the latest episodes and the world's top news stories. Last but not